got one miss.
Alright, these are the results from the 8mm Mauser. This is a Turkish Mauser, made in 1943. I was shooting 1941 vintage surplus Turkish 8mm Mauser ammo through it. Full metal jacket, of course. You can see it makes quick work of 3/8 inch steel, plus that's another 1/8 inch angle iron piece behind it. Went right through that stuff like nothing. Some of these other holes are from the Arasaka 7.7mm. That was a tree branch that just fell off a tree. You can see it goes through it like nothing. Of course, the 7.7 was soft point hunting ammo made by Norma, and that ate through it like nothing. So I kind of wasn't surprised that Full Metal Jacket tears through it like nothing either. If soft points can do it, why can't this? So once again, I'll have to upgrade to like a 3/4 inch plate or maybe even a 1 inch, something very thick. There's the exit wounds. That's just terrible. So I'm gonna have to remake this plate anyways, make a new one. This thickness I'll just stick with pistol rounds. But awesome. The target, the distance from where I was shooting, way over there. So that's probably about 75 yards total. I haven't measured it out, but figure that out sooner or later. The Turkish 8mm Mauser is very similar to any other Mauser out there. Basically your standard Model 98. Same action pretty much. There's almost no difference. This one has a straight bolt, which almost all the Turkish Mausers had, I believe, compared to your German rifles, which most of the other ones had bent bolts. So to me, I'd rather have the bent bolt, but I'm starting to actually get used to these straight bolts, like on the Arasaka and some of the other rifles that I have. But this is a Turkish Mauser. It was made in 1943. This was actually made in Turkey. I believe the earlier ones were made somewhere else, or they were, salvaged parts off of other rifles that they put together. But these, I believe, were completely made in Turkey. This one's dated 1943. This is a very long-barreled rifle compared to your standard, like German K98. Most Mausers were the shorter length in World War II. This one still carries the barrel length similar to that of the World War I German Gewehr 98. And just earlier rifles in general had longer barrels. But this one is World War II, but it still had the long barrel. But these rifles are pretty nice. Some of them are pretty beat. Once again, this just kind of goes with the military surplus rifle market. A lot of them get beat up and used in 10 different countries, and they aren't going to look perfect, that's for sure. But this one's actually in really good shape for the most part. The finish on it's probably, I don't know, average, I'd say. Stock is pretty good. But I was shooting Turkish 8mm back in the day, probably a little over 10 years ago. I used to go with my dad and my grandpa to gun shows, and you could find this bandoliers. I don't remember how much is in there. Probably 70 rounds, I think. 7 pouches times, 10 rounds. So 70 rounds, I think. Pretty sure that is. For like just a couple bucks. You could buy it dirt cheap. Same with these rifles. These rifles you could pick up for what, a Mauser Nagant goes for these days. About 80 bucks, maybe 100 at the most if you find a decent one. And they're still not that high in price. You could still get them for just over 100 bucks, maybe around the $200 mark. Maybe a little more if they're really, really pristine. But I picked this one up for about 100. You can't beat it for what you're getting at that price. Just like a Nagant rifle is, you can't beat that. This ammo, on the other hand, you know, you can still get it relatively cheap. I'm pretty sure most of it's been bought up by now and all that stuff, but I'm sure it's still out there. It's 1941 dated. Can kind of see in the camera. When I first bought this stuff, I had a Yugo M48 that I bought. Also, that was probably many years ago. My dad bought me my first rifle. One of my first rifles, I should say. And that was when I was a little kid, and it was a Yugo M48 in 8mm, and I got some of this ammo. I think it was like $5 bandolier or something like that, or maybe 10 at the most for 70 rounds, and none of it would fire. The firing pin had the primer had a big dent in it from the firing pin, so it wasn't the firing pin's problem, but it never fired. So we thought it was just corrosive. Maybe the primers were shot. And it's just, we decided not to shoot any of it. It's kind of dangerous. You could get a hang fire that could cause a problem. So this stuff, I went and shot it. As you can see in the videos, it shot great. Unlike the first time I tried it years and years ago. So some of it out there is really good, some of it isn't. The only other issue that I have with this stuff is buy a lot of it, because a lot of them have split case necks already. I don't know if it's just the brass gets old, you can kind of see it there. And it tends to split, it gets brittle, whatever. So some of these I'm just going to pull the bullets out, save the bullets, and then scrap the rest. These are burden primed, so they're not reloadable unless you really want to play around with reloading some of this old brass, but it's not worth it to me. I have other 8mm commercial stuff that I'll reload, but basic quick kind of rundown of this rifle. Very cheap to buy yet. Most of them are in reasonable condition. Plenty good for any just a plinking rifle. I wouldn't want to really use it much for a deer rifle. It is a pretty big rifle, but you know, if you're sitting in a stand or whatever, I guess it's not that big a deal. They are very accurate. I had never really sighted in this rifle. I had never even shot it actually before I shot the video today, shooting at the steel target. I only shot 10 rounds through it. I only missed once, but yeah, it's a fun rifle. Glad I have it. One more Mauser in my collection. It puts me up to about 7 or 8 now, and I'll have future videos of some of those too. But I'd recommend getting one of these. If you know, once again, if you're a surplus rifle collector, you're into surplus rifles, this is a cheap, easy rifle to get. Ammo is still somewhat plentiful out there. It is corrosive. Clean your rifle properly, and it'll last forever. Otherwise, your bore will be eaten out within a week. This stuff is pretty gnarly, nasty on bores. So keep that in mind. And also, this rifle has a mismatched bolt. A lot of them are going to be like that. You might find some that aren't. Same with any other bolt action rifle in these World War II rifles. A lot of them were swap parts, non-matching bolts, so head spacing is an issue. This rifle fires perfectly fine, head space correctly. Key is, you know, to have your head space checked. If you are picking up a rifle like that, just take it to a gunsmith. It might cost you a couple bucks or $10, who knows what. They might even do it for free, but you know, have your headspace checked, or buy a go no-go gauge set. They are expensive, but if you plan on collecting a lot of rifles, they're a worthy investment. So that's something to consider.